Audrey, this is great to have you with me again today. And we were just talking, and it has been almost about a year, if not a little bit right around there, right?
Over,
Since we,
yeah.
yeah. So I connected with you real briefly back in Tennessee about this time of the year last year. And then we were able to meet in person because I did not know that you lived pretty close to me when we
Yeah,
were in Tennessee, right? So
exactly.
luckily, we were able to meet up and I got to know more about yourself. And I would love you to share that part of your journey and, what we were just talking about briefly before I hit record here. We could dive into that too for where you are today. So why
Yeah.
don't why don't we just start there? Like, who is Audrey today? What are you up to?
Yeah. So I am starting to launch my own coaching practice and speaking business, right? I That's how we met when I was a speaker in the Movement Maker 2024 in Nashville. And that was my first time speaking on a stage like that, right? Like I have spoken before from a work perspective, like working in corporate, but that was my first time doing that, which was super, super cool. At that time, I was still working in corporate. Um, so a little snippet of that. When I did that, I had connected with Michael, right? And Michael said that we had 20 minutes, I think it was, to talk, right? Or something like that. So type A personality, I'm all in my head and I'm like, okay, what am I going to talk about? So I got my topic and I'm rehearsing in the car and I'm timing it and I'm trying to figure out, like what's my intro, what my music is going to be like, all that, right? Because saw. So I'm doing all that the day of. Um, they call my name. I go out on stage, and by the time all the intros happen. I look at the clock, I have 11 minutes. So in my head, I'm editing on the fly everything that I had to say. And so I was like, oh, this is really, really interesting. I don't know. Some pieces I didn't include. I held back some key pieces I added in. And then afterwards, some people came up to me and said that it was good. I was like, oh, thank you, Lord, because that was an experience. Because you think everything is going to go the way you plan it, right? But it doesn't always go that way. So, fast forwarding now, what I'm doing now is recently I was laid off from my job about a month ago. And I worked in corporate for over 35 years in IT on Wall Street in the technical space as a program manager. So managing teams of developers and engineers and communicating up to senior management and just managing time and schedules and scope and those kinds of things to make sure the projects are delivered on time. Um, so when I got laid off, I was thinking, what am I going to do? Like, am I done with corporate? What do I want to do? So now I'm thinking is a good time for me to kind of figure that out, right? Um, and the questions that I was thinking about is like, do I really want to go into corporate? Can I afford not to go into corporate? Can I afford to sustain myself and do the things that I love, which is speaking and coaching? So as I kind of look for a job, but kind of not, but really going full throttle into like coaching, like really making an effort because I got tons of time now, right? So this event that I went to today popped up on my Facebook and I reached out to the organizer and I asked her, I said, well, do you have your speakers already, lined up? I would like to be a speaker. She says, we do, but you can have a table. And so I was like, oh, okay, I could, I could do that. Now she said half a table. I can share a table with another therapist. I said, okay, like I can do that. She said, you can bring your materials. I don't have any materials, right? But I'm thinking it should be pretty easy for me to like pull something together. I have website branding kind of stuff. I was like, okay, I can pull together some content. So I went ahead and registered for the event. And when I did that, she said, oh, you went ahead and registered, so now we're gonna give you a full table. So I'm thinking, I didn't have anything for a half a table. Now I have a full table. So I go and get, to me, I'm thinking, what would how could this represent me? Because it's not like I have a product or, something I can demo there. But I offered free complimentary sessions. I had tips for self-care as a mental health and life coach who specializes in self-care. So I had these things. And I connected with one of the coaches where we went to the same coaching institute to get our certification. And I was talking to her about this. And I was going to buy, those tchotchke things you get when you go to conferences, like pens or little squishy balls
Yeah,
or, whatever. I was going to buy some of those and give them out. And I thought, oh, like I've been to so many of these conferences, like, do I really want to do that? And she said to me, she said, don't do that. She said, just lead with you and your energy and connect with whoever comes to your table. And that just freed me. I said, okay, not doing the tchotchkes. I I have a therapist and I was talking to my therapist about it, and she said the exact same thing. She said, just put like 10 tips, like something that you would offer. And so that's what I did. So today was my first time ever hosting or being an exhibitor or having a table at an event that was just about me. And it was awesome. It was really, really good. It was a lot of fun.
that's awesome. I'm glad you had a good time. I mean, that's what matters, right? It's a learning experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know how it was going to go. The event was beautiful in here in Pennsylvania, so that didn't, that helped. Food was amazing. And it flowed really easy. Like talking to the client, I didn't feel like I was selling. It didn't feel salesy. Um, but I think most importantly, it felt good for me to be doing something for me as opposed to me representing a company, right? I went there and I'm doing it for me. So I really felt like that was a big boost in the right direction.
Yeah. As I was telling you before that, yeah, I was at my first one too this year back in January. And so some advice that was given to me, and I had a table first time, I'm like, okay, I teach podcasting. Like,
Yeah.
okay, here we go. I'm in the middle of like, it was a health expo, health and wellness expo. Good for me to speak on, but I'm not sure about the whole podcast part. So I had a monitor with my laptop showing an episode, which was the episode of the woman that was actually running it. So
Oh, good.
I had that running, no audio, just to show something. But something that was suggested to me was just have a bowl of candy. I'll tell you what, it just attracts people like like flies are going to food, what and the other stuff. Um, and you could have a conversation that way. And the other thing too, although I was told this after the fact, but I kind of picked this up. Maybe you got this too. Instead of being behind the table, you stand in front of the table. So you remove that barrier of hiding, where that
Mm-hmm.
person could be hiding, you could be hiding. Now you're in front of each other and you're exchanging that
Mm-hmm.
energy in front.
Mm-hmm.
That was just my quick experience on the first time I was able to do that. And I had fun too. It was some different interesting conversations, not trying to sell anything, just, hey, this is what I'm doing. Just go check out the podcast if you want to, and just go from there and see what happens.
No, it's true. The table next to me was St. Luke's.
Okay.
So they had, St. Luke's. They got all their stuff. They got a team of people there, but it was still, I didn't feel intimidated at all. There were a lot of people there for health, different vendors offering different things. I was the only one there that was offering anything in the coaching or no, in coaching space because there were therapists,
Mhm.
right? And people there for health, and there was some financial vendors there, but I was the only one. And just like you, I'm like, okay, here we go.
That's
I mean,
right.
I did have candy. I had a bowl of mints there, like a small bowl of mints. I wanted it to be pretty because that's just me, like aesthetic wise, I would be drawn to it. So I had flowers, I had a mirror, I had the sign because there is a like I have the giggle gene is what I tell everybody. Like I laugh very easily and smile very easily. And so my sense of humor is there. I had this sign that said something like, everybody wants to be a part of change, but nobody wants to change the toilet paper, right?
Right.
And at the bottom it said, be the change.
Be the change. That's
So
awesome.
that drew people because people would stop and they were like, oh, that's really, really cute, right? So that's what I figured would draw people. Um, and then the other thing I did was when I talked about me, I also asked about the person who was at the table because
Mm,
they would say, what are you doing? I'm saying, this is me. I'm not okay, enough about me. What about you? And then I talked to them. So I was pretty busy, which was pretty good.
yeah, that is good. That's really good.
We'll just see if it translates into any discovery sessions or possible clients. That would be awesome.
Right. But it's the first time you left your corporate job, you have an opportunity now, and now you're taking it. And so sometimes I run into people like yourself that actually like this is the time, right? You can always go back to another job if you wanted to.
Yep.
But I feel, and you share this with me and the people, uh, for your soul, your body, peace, whatever. I mean, how does that feel at the moment right now? I know you're just new and stuff, but how does it feel?
To go out and actually do something for myself.
Yeah.
Um, it's hard to describe and put into words. Definitely liberating. One of the things that I was thinking about is I live in Pennsylvania, as you know, but I worked in New York, right? I worked in Wall Street. So I did a 2-hour commute each way to go to work. And about a month ago, when I was thinking about what I wanted to do and how much, I have a lot of time, and I'm thinking if I can invest 4 hours just in travel time to get to a job and then work a full day, I can do that for myself, right? So that is one of the things that kind of helped propel me in this direction. It felt amazing. It felt amazing for me to be there and talk about me and be on my schedule, right? There's no one telling me what I need to do, what I don't have to do, or what I need to wear, right? Because I did some color scheme. I mean, that's fine, but I didn't have any of that, right? It was truly all about me. And when I first got there, I'm looking at everyone else's table, and I actually took pictures of like their branding and how they had their table. I bought, for example, black tablecloths, but all the tables when I got there, they all had white tablecloths. I was like, okay, I'll just use the white, not a problem. Then as the other vendors started coming, they started covering the tables with their stuff, right? Their color scheme and their whatever. I was like, dang, I probably should have used the black. And I was like, you know what? It's not like black is my color scheme or anything. So even that, right? Just go with the flow. Just
Yeah.
do whatever I want to do. That um the friend that I spoke to when she said just lead with me and connect, that was very powerful.
Right. So you're being your authentic self, showing up, sharing whatever it is with these people. Um, what exactly you're into therapy and you're also coaching. So what exactly are you doing?
So I'm doing coaching. So it's mental health and life coaching with a focus on self-care. So self-care being when you think of self-care, when a lot of people think of self-care, they think of manicures, pedicures, massages. Not that there's anything wrong with manicures, pedicures, and massages. I do all that stuff. But in my program and what I offer to my clients, it's so much more than that, right? It's about creating boundaries, right? It's about asking for help, saying no. It's about assessing your energy, about the energy of the people who are around you, who's drawing from you, who is pouring into you, who's energizing you. So replenishing yourself, resting, all of these things, when you think about self-care, you don't think about these things. So that's what I bring to my clients when I'm coaching them. Of course, I'm coaching them on depression, anxiety, whatever other issues that they may have. But all of those sessions are really just bringing it right back to the person, right? Doing an assessment. So I offer what's called an energy leadership index assessment, where I assess your energy and then later on do a debrief on your energy assessment. A lot of people don't get that, right? They don't realize that your energy really is everything. And it enters the room before you do,
You're
right?
right.
We all had experiences where you see some people come in and they're like Pigpen, they got a big cloud on them. They come in and the energy can just shift right away,
Oh
not
yeah.
in a good way.
Right.
But
You
then you
sit in
have
the
people who shifted the other way too.
exactly. You sit in those meeting rooms, you can feel the vibe as soon as you walk in with whoever might be bringing it. And then you have to be really strong to hold yourself, your composure and everything to stay where you are and not
Yep.
mix in with everybody.
Yeah. It
That's
takes a lot. It takes a lot to be able to do that. A lot of the people that I spoke to today were resonating with a lot of what I just said. And then depending on who I was talking to, I was literally sharing bits and pieces of my own story, like bits and pieces of me going through a divorce or bits and pieces of me taking care of my mom who has dementia, like depending on who I was talking to, like me being a working mom and having working mom guilt. Like all of these things, I was just sharing myself. And I truly do believe that when you go through something, all of us, that you go through it for you, but then it's also for other people.
right. I agree. So they resonate with what you have to share, and you're creating that bond there. Uh, when we first met, like you were up on stage, and I swear these are your words. You had your blinders on, if I remember right. Yeah, and that's what intrigued me. That's what got me to go ahead and I eventually found you. We had a
Yep.
few quick minutes, and I was like, you know, I think what you said up there was really great, and I want you to, in a couple minutes, to share your journey and stuff of what you
Yep.
went through and how you got to where you are today. But not knowing, I didn't know that we were so close to home with each other, around each other. And so when you said put your blinders on, it resonated with me because I wound up going through a divorce about 4 years ago, as I shared with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost felt like I had them on in a sense, or I just didn't want to accept what may have been going on, right? Because I had that deeper love, that trust, and the loyalty and everything else that you can add to that. Uh, and it's I love just how, I sat down at a table and I was writing notes, just a few little things of when somebody said something, I'm like, oh, I gotta go talk to them because it resonated with me, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
and that was the one for you, like it just hit me. So can you go back and share? You don't have to go for 20, 30 minutes like you
Yeah,
did on
yeah, yeah,
stage,
yeah.
but whatever you got, you
I
can
can
share.
edit on the fly.
Yeah, we all know that already.
I can, yeah. So for that session, I talked about blind spots, right? Specifically about blind spots and the blind spots being things that, like in a car, I use the car analogy, that can harm you and you don't see it. So that's why
Mhm.
you have these alerts like in your car that can say, wait a minute, there's a car coming up on your left or lane assist or whatever it is. So I use that as an analogy. And then there are blind spots in your life, right? Like there are people that could be sitting in your blind spot. So a little bit about my story. I'm also divorced. I was married for 28 years before I got divorced, and I've been divorced for 5 years now. And I got married to stay married. And my plan was like everyone else, I'm going to ride it until the wheels fall off. And it wasn't until I went through my coaching certification and started learning about me and started learning about people. And remember, just a little while ago, I said, when you go through something, it's for you first and then you share it.
Mhm.
That's what happened. Like, as I'm coaching other people now, during that training, I was being coached, right? For 10 months, if you can imagine that, just being coached like intensively, me being coached, learning about tools that we use for our clients. And it was an awakening moment for me. I entered into the coaching program one way, and by the time I left, I was a different person. I was thinking differently about myself. I was thinking differently about other people. I was rearranging my friends because there were people who were around me who were really taking my energy away. And I felt it. I always felt it. I just didn't know what was really going on, right? Like I didn't know. Now I can say, I can think and say, that person, they really are taking energy away from me. I felt it before, but I didn't have words, right? So I was able to put words to it. So and I met a friend and she was a therapist, a psychotherapist, psychologist. We became really good friends. And that's when I learned about the term narcissism. You hear it here and there. I didn't know too much about it. So I started doing a little bit of research about it. And I realized, wow, okay, you know what? My husband he may be a narcissist. And as I started learning more about it, it kind of shifted my perspective of whether I stay or go in my marriage. So we ended up, getting a divorce. And so now I'm married for 28 years. I am 55 years old at the time, and now I'm single. What does that look like? Right? Like, where do I go with that? What do I do with that? Um, we built our dream home. Now I'm no longer in the dream home, which I had a huge emotional attachment to, right? So now I'm like, what do I do? So I got a therapist to one help me own my part in my marriage because it's John, as much as it was every fiber of my being that wanted to blame him 1000% for everything, I knew that that could not be the case. So I'm going through therapy. I went on vacation by myself for the first time in my entire life. I went to Mexico for a week. And I thought, okay, you know what? This is a time for me to carve out and define what my life wants to be. Like, what do I want my life to be? Who do I want to be on the other side of this divorce? This is an opportunity for me to do whatever I wanted to do. Um, that was in 2019. Yeah, that was in 2019. I went on, it started right away, right? So the next month I went on vacation by myself. Never did that before. Had a great time. I think it was 2 months later or a month later, I went to Michael's very first event that he had. I did that, went to Delaware to that conference by my, never did that before, right? And so after that, I started traveling by myself and I really started opening up. I auditioned for theater. I was in a couple of plays, like some musicals. Who is this person? Spoke on stage at the mastermind last year. So there's a lot of things that just kind of opened up for me when I made that energetic shift and said, you know what? This is an opportunity for me to build and carve out the kind of life that I want it to be. And now I feel like it's kind of full circle. Like I was working then. And so now I'm not working. And so now it's like where the rubber meets the road. Like this is like I can really jump in 10 toes down, right? And walk into this lifestyle of being a speaker and a coach.
Yeah, and it's funny, well, not funny, but it in a way of how this happened now. Now you have an opportunity with your job loss, right? To to seek the speaking opportunity. And it, was that something that you planned? Like, not that you planned to get laid off, but I mean, like you were eventually working your way out, I guess, in your head, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I plan to retire and be a speaker and travel in my head,
Okay.
right? In my head, I was like, oh, when I retire, I'm just going to be coaching people full time and I'm going to, I'm going to be speaking and traveling all over the world. Like, what a life. Like, we say these things, right? So in my head, that's what I wanted to do. Um, I wasn't really pushing in that direction so hard because I had a job, right? I was working during the day and coaching in the evening. So I had coaching clients on the West Coast that I would coach in the evening, and then I was working during the day. So there was a bandwidth issue there. I didn't have a lot of time to put into building my coaching business and whatever that looked like, right? I'm like, okay, I need a website. I built the website. I need clients. All right, how do I do that? And there's all this, what's your why and where are your people and all these different things. And I'm like, okay, but now it's real. Now it's okay, just full throttle.
That's awesome. So, what would you say to somebody that's been married for so long, went through a divorce, around your age or so? How can they navigate that? What would you tell them?
I would tell them to take the time to heal, go through the grieving process because it is a process. Go through that. And while you're going through that grieving process and while you're healing, however long that takes, think about what you want in your life. Think about where you want to be. It's a loss. So that's where the grieving comes in. It's a loss of a lifestyle, right? It's a loss of everything. So that's definitely real. And let's not ignore that. That's important. A lot of times we don't. We feel like, oh, you know what? He was not the right one for me, or it's better that these things happen this way. And sometimes there's kids in the mix. So there's a lot going on emotionally. Take the time and process that emotionally, and then really sit down and this is what I did. Figure out, carve out what you want your life to be. Do you want to travel more? Do that. Um, as a coach, I'm always talking to my clients about my favorite my one of my favorite questions is what's the worst that can happen? Like if the coaches come to me with a like they're at an impasse, they say, "Well, I want to do A or I want to do B." I'm like, "Okay, well, go ahead and do that. Like if you want to start a podcast, I don't know if I could do it. What's the worst that can happen? You know, on the scale from 1 to 10, take one small step. You know, all these coaching things that we tell our clients, and that's what I was doing for myself. Like, what's the worst that can happen if you put yourself out there?
Right.
Right? So put yourself out there, figure out what you really, really want to do, what resonates with you, what aligns with your core values, and then put a plan in place to move in that direction. What's the worst that can happen? Call me if you have any problems, if you have any concerns.
That's right. Yeah, you got experience, you can share it. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely, definitely. I have one other story to share. In 2019, and this is all about being bold and stepping out. In 2019 or 2020, I was enrolled in a public speaking course that Michael was having, right? So I hadn't really done anything as far as public speaking on the stage at that point, and I was in my head about like, what do I have to say? Like, what people will listen to me, like all the whole imposter syndrome stuff. And but I was going through the course and I was being diligent with doing the work. This conference came up for International Women's Day, just kind of like popped up on my feed. But because I was in this space of public speaking, and that's the energy that I was in, when I got that on my feed, the first thing I did, much like I did for this, is I reached out to the organizer right away and I said, how can I get on the agenda for next year? She reached out to me right away and she says, well, what would you talk about? I said, self-care is more than manicures and pedicures, right? She said, great. We don't have anybody talking about that. International conference now. These are women for 24 hours all over the world that are talking, and they have like these little 30-minute slots. She says, we don't have anyone talking about that. I said, okay. She said, someone dropped out, and I will reward you for being diligent, right? And taking the initiative. It'll save me time because I don't have to go out and search for someone. She said, if you wouldn't mind, I can put you in that slot. I said, sure. This is all through emails, right? I said, sure. This is a Wednesday. I said, when is it? It was Saturday.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness. Okay, so now I have to put together a 30-minute talk on self-care. And I did it and it was fine. Again, this was during COVID. It was in March of 2020. So Zoom wasn't really Zoom the way it is now. Backgrounds weren't as fancy as they are now. So I had a sheet in the back with some lights and a fake plant. It was just crazy. But I had in my head about stepping out and doing the bold thing, right? Being uncomfortable, being comfortable, because these are the things that I would tell my clients as a coach. And so I'm like, well, I need to do that for myself, right? Step out and be uncomfortable and be bold. And this is where the energy comes in because I was in that space. I was already in that space where I was already a coach looking for coaching opportunities. I was already in this course about speaking. So it was just around me. If I hadn't been taking that course, there's no way I would have even responded that way.
Yeah, it kind of built you up to that person that who you want to become. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I'm in a couple books this year, and like I never saw that coming, right? But I took the initiative when the opportunity came to me. I said, sure, why not? Let's see what happens. But that is a way for us to grow as a person, for sure, right? Stepping out of the comfort zone,
Yep.
and you have to be around the right people because the wrong people are going to pull you back and say,
They're
you
going to put,
can't, yeah, can't do it. You know, you shouldn't be doing this. You know, you're fine where you're at. But once you take that leap and, you know, I pray that that person takes that leap and keeps going, because if you don't keep going, that person's going to be like, ah, I told you so, right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, but at least they took that leap, whether they kept going or not. So it's a
yeah.
learning experience.
It totally is. And this is where the energy part of assessing the people who are around you is so important. And when I went through my coaching training, that was so evident there because everyone who went to that training in the cohort that I was in were all there for the same purpose, which is to help other people and to make other people better. So we're encouraging each other. So the energy was amazing. And I hadn't had that prior to that experience, right? I was like, wow, this is really good. Like you walk out of there feeling like you can just conquer the world, right? I'm like, this is really, really good. So having people around is so important. And then what there's two things. One, having the people around you, and then two, you being in the right mindset as well.
Yeah,
Right. Because if
exactly.
you're still in this space where I can't do it, no one would ever listen to me, or no one would ever pay for whatever product, no one's ever going to read my book, then you're going to talk yourself right out of it.
That's right. Instead of taking the chance. And, you know, the other thing too for me now, I don't want to regret anything. Like I always hear that when people get older, they lay in their beds, deathbeds, and they're telling everybody that, you know, I regret not doing
Yeah.
what I want to do. And I feel like you're at that stage where you're not that you're regretting, but that you're moving forward. You are taking on action to do the things that you want to do. And I'm just running with it as well. And I'm having a great time, you know, and
Me too.
whether it works out or not, you know, my vision is for everything to work out, but whether it does or not, it's going to allow me to get to a different level than what I am at today, and which will encourage, you know, others to, you know, reach out and try to do something different too.
Absolutely. I replay that what's the worst that can happen
Mhm.
for me, that replays in my head all the time when I even have a little bit of apprehension about, like when I got this email about this conference today, right? I'm reaching out. I didn't, for whatever reason, that never even entered into my head. But sometimes it does. Like, I'm like, should I? I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? She could say no,
Right.
which she did, but then she offered me this table, right? I didn't see that coming, right? So now today's the first day I've had an experience. I didn't see that. I couldn't have imagined that would happen. But that's the way things happen, right? Like what's you put yourself out there, take the bold step and then put yourself out there. What's the worst that can happen?
That's right. So I'm going to allow you to put yourself out there now. Why don't you just share how people can reach out to you for your help?
Yeah, sure. So my brand is my name. It's Audrey Dendy-Hightower. Last name is hyphenated. I have a website. You can go onto my website. You can find me on Instagram, my name. I have a it's going to be a podcast. It's called the You Break with Audrey, which is on Facebook. So if you look that up, You Break with Audrey is where I share 10-minute or like little snippets like self-care tips. And so that's where you can find me on my website, on Instagram, and also on Facebook, You Break with Audrey. And wherever
Yeah.
else I'm going to be, who knows where I'm going to pop up.
That's right. Um, so the last question I ask everybody is
Sure.
what are three key things you've learned and used along your journey?
Three key things I've learned and used on my journey. Um, Believe in myself, trust God always. And I want to say, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, that you said it plenty of times when we were
Yeah.
talking, so that all makes sense, right?
Yes.
I get a lot. They do say a lot about faith, God, whatever it is they decide, and that allows them to keep moving forward too, right? And it,
Yep.
you know, whether it's in your time, his time, whatever, at least something's going to come up. So
Yep.
that's a big one. And you know what's the worst can happen, right? You're just going to get stronger, get better. So just don't let the world beat you down. I love what you're sharing. I love what you're doing and how you're supporting other people. So I can only imagine where you're going to go with this. And
Mm-hmm.
you're just getting started, right?
That's how I feel. And I also feel like something that you said just made me think of this, that like when you say you're working, like you're working on your podcast, you're working on building your brand or whatever it is. I really do feel, I used to tell my son this, that when you work hard at something, you're going to benefit from it. Like it's just, I just don't feel it's possible for you to just work so hard at something and get nothing back.
Yeah.
I just don't believe that, right? So you work hard at it, you're gonna get something back for it. And it may not be what you think, right? Like I reached out for speaking, I ended up getting a table.
But you got something,
And you
right?
got something back. Exactly. Something good for
Yeah.
sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Au-
yeah.
Audrey, we're gonna stay in touch, and I want to see where you go with all this, and we'll have you back
Definitely.
on next year or something, catch up.
Yep.
So,
Yep, yep, yep. When I launch my podcast, then you can return the favor.
there you go. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure. Absolutely.
that works.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
Yeah, you're welcome.